over 2,000 years ago, where the icy waves of the North Sea relentlessly crash against Scotland's rugged shores. There lived a people of extraordinary skill and ambition. Though they inhabited the farthest reaches of ancient Europe, their isolation did not deter them from leaving an enduring mark upon the land. These intrepid souls erected the Brochs, the megastructures of the Iron Age. These immense stone towers still stand today, defying time and the elements. Brochs are found throughout Scotland, with the greatest concentrations in the north and west. The best preserved, the Broch of Musa, rises 13 meters into the sky. Built using only local stone, the walls of a Broch were feats of engineering. Yet, despite their grandeur, we do not know the names of the people who built them. When Brochs were built, writing had not yet arrived in this region, meaning no records exist of their builders or the purpose of such towers. There are over 500 known Broch sites. Some stand alone on rocky promontories. Others are surrounded by villages and earthworks. Each one tells a different story, but without written records, we must rely solely on archaeology to piece together their purpose. Perhaps these imposing megastructures were a continuation of an older tradition of much simpler round houses. These were large circular stone buildings that appeared centuries before the Brochs. Over time, their design became more sophisticated, their walls taller, their interiors more complex. The Broch may represent the pinnacle of this architectural evolution. This region has a severe lack of timber, making stone the primary building material. The builders of Brochs made use of locally available sandstone, which naturally fractures into flat slabs. This made stacking and constructing these imposing towers far more efficient and stable. Although not found at all Broch sites, a fortifying rampart wall was commonly constructed around Brochs. This thick wall encircles the community, but is particularly formidable at the entrance, where it could reach 2 meters in both thickness and height. The rampart wall head formed a flat platform, where defenders could position themselves, circling the Broch. In front of the rampart wall lies a deep ditch, enhancing the impression of a towering defensive structure. Thorny plants like bramble were encouraged to grow in the ditch, adding an extra layer of defense. It also served as a refuse heap where the daily waste of the Broch community was discarded. These landfills have become an archaeological treasure trove, revealing seashells, animal bones, broken pottery, and even human remains, offering insight into the lives of those who once lived here. The rampart had a single fortified entrance known as the blockhouse. Blockhouses had cells for the guards and supported a second floor that acted as a defensive platform. Attacking a fortified Broch had to be no easy feat. Behind the blockhouse, a large courtyard opened with the towering Broch in the center. Around it, a collection of smaller buildings formed a thriving settlement. Workshops, storehouses, stables, and homes were clustered together, all built using the same construction techniques as the Broch itself. This courtyard was the heart of the community, a place where daily life unfolded under the shadow of the massive tower. The entrance to the Broch was a tunnel penetrating up to 5 meters of thick walls. The passageway was designed to make attacking the Broch very difficult. The low roof forced anyone entering to bow their head, hindering any would-be attacker. A sturdy door that opened inward was located in the middle of this tunnel, blocked from the inside using a wooden beam. The entrance had a small cell, often referred to as a guard room. However, given its very low roof, it was likely a kennel for guard dogs, adding another layer of security. The interior of the Broch was dark, not exactly a luxury home by modern standards, but in the long, cold winters of northern Scotland, such a safe, dry and warm place must have been a blessing for its inhabitants. Each Broch was unique, but some common features could be found on the ground floor. Large flat stones divided the space into rooms, some used for grain storage, others for sheltering animals, and other rooms to prepare meals. Archaeologists have found remains of cattle, sheep, and pig bones, suggesting that the people in the Broch had an elite-like diet. The walls of the ground floor rooms had recessed niches, similar to modern cupboards. Some Brochs have revealed remnants of colored clay and seashell decorations, making them surprisingly ornate. In one such niche, archaeologists found remnants of medicinal plants, suggesting these spaces were used for storing valuable items. One of the most intriguing features of Brochs is the so-called well. However, archaeologists doubt these were a source of drinking water, as many were dug below sea level, making the water brackish. These wells were too small to provide enough water for an entire community. A recent discovery may shed light on their true purpose. In one well, a remarkably preserved wooden bowl was found alongside 20 strands of hair. Could this be evidence of a ritual offering? If so, these wells may have been miniature versions of sacred underground sites, like the High Pasture Cave on Skye, used for ritual deposits of sacred objects. One of the most fascinating aspects of Brochs is their hollow wall construction. This feature reduced the weight of the massive structure and cut down on the labor needed to build a Broch. Within these hollow walls, a staircase is always present, though analysis of the wear of the steps suggests they were not used daily. The internal stair may have been only used during the construction of the Broch. The first floor rested on a scarce cement ledge, protruding from the internal wall. Though evidence is scarce, one Broch revealed traces of wattled panels, making the floor light but sturdy. This space was likely the main residential area, where people slept in partitioned rooms, shared meals, and engaged in storytelling, diplomacy, and trade. Compared to the ground floor, the first floor was quite tall. This allowed smoke from the central hearth to rise. Some Brochs have evidence of a second floor, likely a mezzanine, used for drying barley, smoking meat and fish, and storing food for the harsh winters. For a long time, Brochs were considered mere guard towers, military structures meant to control territory. However, this theory has been replaced by the idea of Brochs as stately homes, powerful symbols of prestige and dominance. Truly understanding Brochs is no easy task. Early archaeologists often damaged or destroyed crucial evidence, as they were working without the benefit of modern scientific methods. Much of what we know today comes from limited findings and educated guesswork. We can try to piece the puzzle together, but any conclusions we can draw are tentative at best. Still, here's what we can say about these remarkable Iron Age structures. Northern Scotland is a harsh place to farm. The land is dominated by peat bogs and acidic, ash-heavy soils known as podzol. It is an unforgiving environment. Food shortages were a constant threat. Having a central, well-managed storage system could mean the difference between survival and starvation. For many Iron Age families, a line with a powerful household was a form of insurance. For small farming families, it didn't make sense to pour resources into capital-intensive or high-risk activities like ironworking, long-distance trade, fish curing, or animal breeding. These were long-term investments, luxuries that only the Broch elites could afford to gamble on. The arrival of the rotary quern reinforced this patron-client relationship. Milling barley became more efficient, and we can easily imagine Brochs turning into massive communal storehouses, where local families brought their grain to be milled and stored for the winter. In return, they gained something priceless: a reliable food reserve, a safeguard against failed harvests. But evidence about the Broch power system is scarce, and there's still much to investigate. What we do know is that eventually the age of Brochs came to an end. Many fell into disrepair, their stones repurposed by later generations for new buildings. The Brogues were abandoned but never forgotten. My name is Sarah, and this was In the Mists of Time.